Okay, so we are covering 5.3, which covers sine and cosine rule. This is the equation for sine rule, which we'll start with first. A couple key things to note is that sine of b is always going to refer to the angle in which b is referring to, and respective angles alike, and the little letters are always going to refer to the side lengths in which we are referring to. A couple key rules to follow would be which are going to apply to both sine and cosine rule. The first rule, rules of sine rule. The first rule is going to be setting up the equation. Usually writing out the basis of what you're going to write before filling it in is going to help you best, so that's why I consider it the setup of the equation. Identify what you are trying to solve for. It's not always going to be true that what you are trying to solve for is already going to be on the left, so manipulating the equation to identify what you're solving for is going to give you the right answer. Get that variable alone, and that means manipulating the equation to get whatever you want to find out by itself. And finally, not finally, but kind of finally, plug in your values. So you'll most likely have some values already given to you, or values you will find out that plugging into the equation will benefit you, And then round to the nearest hundredth or decimal. I don't really care. Example 1, because I didn't just show you all that work. Example 1. Okay. This is a cosine rule in which we need to find the sine of b. So we are going to set up our equation. Sine of b over b equals sine of c over c. And ignore the stuff in purple. Okay, so you're just going to ignore the purple stuff for now, but you set up your equation, which was the first step. The second step was identifying what you're looking for. We are identifying that we are looking for the sine of b. And then the third step is manipulating the equation to get what you're trying to solve for alone. And to do this, we're going to then pay attention to the stuff in purple, which does multiplying by the denominator to get sine of b alone, in which the new equation is going to look like that. Sine of b is alone, and then it is b over c sine of c. It's important to remember that sine of c is its own, number. So then I'll give you some time to maybe think about that, but if you don't want to think about it, here's a whole bunch of work. So what we did was we then plugged in the numbers, which was the next step. So we knew our little b. Oh yeah, I didn't explain that. Okay, so, oh wait, yeah, I did. Okay, whatever. We determined these little numbers based on the diagonal, controversial thing they're apart from. So big B is here, little b is there, and it's so on and so forth. So our little b, which was right there, we decided was right here, and that is 32 meters, so we put that down. Same with the 45, all that good jazz. And then this is the part where it gets confusing. So before all this purple stuff was here, we're just going to ignore that again. This was just by its own. And it's really tempting to do 32 divided by 45 and then just that times sine of 64. However, once you get to this step, it's actually a lot easier than that. On your calculator, you're going to press second and then up on sine, and sine to the -1, which isn't how it's pronounced or said, is given, and you just put this whole thing in there and it'll calculate this for you, and this will also get rid of the sine for the b, because our goal is to have b alone. And then you get this really long answer that we're going to write every single letter for. That's actually a number, because it's IB and you have to. But then basically b equals 40 to the nearest degree. And we are just going to move on from. So this is a different example of a sine problem. Last time we were looking for an angle. This time we're going to be looking for a side length, and which requires a little bit of a different equation. So first step is writing the equation. Boom shakalaka. That's our equation that we're going to use when trying to find a side length. It's important to note that the side length little is now on top, and that the angle measures, sine of a and all that, are now on bottom. We labeled our little letters just so we don't get confused, because they are, opposite of stuff. And then we are going to manipulate our equation to find what we want. So we want little of a, so we are going to times by sine of a to get little a alone on its own as it is there. And then little c comes down to be multiplied by this whole thing. So then we fill in the numbers, and we know that our little c is 14. Our sine of what was formerly a is 102, and our sine of c is 46. Then we're going to type that into our calculator, and it's important to know that you're going to do sine of 102, that number divided by sine of 46. Don't try to type this whole thing because you will get it wrong, or you'll get it right, and I just don't know how to work calculators. But either way, safe than sorry. Anyways, you're going to do a whole bunch of math, and then you're going to get this answer. This is a point. There's like food or something. I don't know. This is a point. It's 19 point all those numbers that we're going to write out because it's IB and we need every single number. And then we are going to transfer that into what the is asking for. A equals B of C, which is this, which is our A, is basically 19. Y'all did fantastic. Okay, moving on. Okay, we are moving on to the cosine aspect of 5.3. This is the equation for cosine. Yep, all those good old numbers. And now we're going to apply it to a problem. So in this problem, we already wrote our thing. This is clearly what is being questioned is the cos of c. Get it? Cos of c. See? There's correlations. Anyways, yeah. So we're just gonna write our equation. Quality equation, assess things, write our little letters where they're supposed to be, correlating and all that good stuff. All right, and then actually, this is one of the ones where when you are finding an angle having to do with the cosine rule, you are going to manipulate your equation to find what you want alone. And right now we want cos of c alone, so we got that alone. And we did that by doing some math, But Google told me that whenever you're using angles, this is what you use. So I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Anyways. Then we are going to plug in our numbers. So we know that our little a is 22. Y'all can read. It's highlighted and everything. Y'all understand. Okay. And then we are going to do some math. 22 squared is 484. 30 squared is 900. And then 36 squared is 1,296. It's important to note that when you're doing this aspect of cosine rule, you're not doing 2 times 22 and 2 times 30 and those two things put together. It's going to be 2 times 22 and that answer times 30. Writing that back down right where you have it, it's important to drop down all of your cos of c so you don't get lost. I sound so tired. I'm so sorry. Don't look at those answers. Okay. So then we did some more math, figured out some things on the right side. And then this is the part where you got to another fraction. And from here, we should know that, fractions aren't allowed when doing anything, basically. Actually, that's a lie. It's like decimals. Whatever. So we can't leave this for an answer. So then we are going to do that second up button again. And we are going to do cos of -1. Again, that's how it's said. And we're going to do some math stuff in our calculator. And we are going to get this answer. Or I just got this answer and it's wrong. But my calculator wouldn't tell me differently. And c basically equals 4. And that also got rid of this cos of c. All right, moving on to the next problem. Okay, and we're back to what we were doing before, which is cosine rule. So this example is asking us about a side length now instead of a cos. You know what I'm talking about, an angle. So we're going to write our equation, and luckily there's no manipulating that has to be done with this equation. I lied. So there's some manipulating that has to be done with this equation to determine the variable we want alone, which is little a. At the time, little a is not alone, so we need to manipulate the equation to get little a alone. And boom, we did this. So now we have a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos of a. Good. Now we're going to plug in all those beautiful numbers that we know, because we know our little b's, because we labeled everything. Yep, that is how you do it. Pause the video at any time if you feel necessary. Ignore that 400. I don't know what it's doing there. Am I lying? Yes. Anyways, so this is after you did the math. So we knew that 20 squared was 400, 13 squared was 169, and then it's easier to just do this instead of writing it all out, because honestly, I wouldn't even know how to write it all out. And then we kept our 42, because remember, this is an entire, not that, this is an entire number. So then we did some more math, and by the way, this says 520. We did some more math, and we found out that 400 plus 169 equals 569, and then we carried this down, and now you can put this entire thing into your calculator, and it'll give you this answer. And now we still have a squared, so it's important to carry down that squared at all times. Oh, look, the pen's open. And so we are going to square root that, in which you are going to get 13, oops, revealing all my secrets, 13 point blah, 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 and we're going to write all those numbers in our work because it's required for IB. And then your answer equals A equals B of C, because that's what we were trying to find, basically equals 13.5 to the nearest 10th of a degree. Okay, it is that beautiful time where we take standardized tests to determine our intelligence. So here we go, because just so you know, this is extremely important information that you are going to use in the future. I'm maybe not even being sarcastic. So, here is the question. A strange child has equal interests in the Illuminati and math. She found a way to combine the two passions. This is her information of the triangle. So, we can see all that. We see that she knows that A of C is 12 meters, C of B is 20 meters, and angle C is 26 degrees. She needs 3 more things to complete this. So your job is to make a sketch of the triangle, find the side length of AB, and find the angle measure for angle B. You pause the video if you don't want to see the work that's about to come up next. So this is the work. This is what your work should look like about. Maybe, unless I'm wrong. Yeah. Because this is going to be how you find your A of B, which is with our handy dandy thing. How we found our A angle with our, handy dandy thing. And, I'm missing something. And this is the sketch of the triangle. Nope, I need you to focus. Oh, okay. All right, there we go. So this is the other portion of your test. Someone wanted to pass their math class, so they drew a bunch of triangles and gave fake, real information about them. This is the information given. So they know that CA is equal to 150 centimeters, AB is equal to 120 centimeters, angle A is 42 degrees, and angle C is 15 degrees. What you need to do is sketch the triangle, find that of CB, and prove that angle B is equal to 19 degrees. Round to the nearest degree. This says prove, yeah, there's some typos in this. You're most likely going to get it right. And just pause the video right now if you don't want to see the answers. But otherwise, here are the answers. That is the sketch of the drawing. That is how you find angle B of the drawing. And that is how you find measure CB of the drawing. This has completed my 5.3 chapter assessment. I really hope this is counted. I really hope you learned from this. Have a fantastic day.